Hello and welcome back. We are back again. It's Nate and Simone. That's my name. Uh, we talk all things marketing. And today we are on part three of our 15 marketing metrics that you need to know. So if your marketing is busy, but it's unpredictable, these 15 numbers show exactly where growth is stalling. And today, since we are on part three, we're going to go into the viability portion of our V3 framework, where where the purpose is where align not viability, value. I was on the wrong one. Okay, let's go back.
Okay, it's okay.
There we go. So where the purpose of value in our company, we are thinking about long term retention, satisfaction, and making some smart capital bets, right? So where do our 15 metrics fit into the valuation of the company? So, but before we get going, we are Nate and Simone. We talk all things marketing. We talk about strategic marketing systems and processes here on this show. And we're glad you're with us. And if you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and do that so that the next time we post and the next time we go live, you'll be notified. And also share it with a friend. Maybe they want to be notified so that they know they get some insights on how to grow their business as well, right? Wouldn't that be a good thing to help a friend out with, right? So, with all that being said, let's get started. Hey, Nate.
Hey. So last week we talked about who Mark Jeffrey was, and I erroneously said,
Oh,
talked
yeah,
about
Mark Jeffrey, that
a
guy.
different Mark Jeffrey. Yeah. So apparently there's two Mark Jeffreys who are in business consulting and are, published authors, and so thus the confusion. But there's only one Mark Jeffrey that actually wrote this book that we're kind of basing our this series on. And that book is Data Driven Marketing, the 15 metrics everyone in marketing should know. And so, I guess you could also say, generally speaking, anyone who's trying to run a business and is using marketing should also know. But yeah, and then the subtitle to that is How Organizations Can Deliver Significant Performance Gains Through Strategic Investment in Marketing. And
That's interesting. I like that. He sees marketing as an investment, which it is.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
A lot of
Absolutely.
people see it as just you're just spending money. But
Well,
as
if you're not paying attention to the metrics that matter, then you are just spending money. That's the
and you are
that's the
just
point
spending
here, I
money.
think. Yeah.
Ah, got it. Okay,
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, yeah. Um, so this Mark Jeffrey, the one who actually wrote this book, he's the director of technology initiatives and the senior lecturer in the Center for Research on Technology and Innovation at the Kellogg School of Management in Evanston, Illinois, for Northwestern. Um, he has more than 30 publications in management, scientific, and technology journals, and has published 24 original Kellogg case studies distributed by Harvard Business School Publishing. So, guy knows what he's talking about.
Prolific
You
writer.
should listen when he when he talks.
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of what we're talking about here, and why we're talking about this. So, like it or not, metrics are important to a business, and paying attention to the right metrics, especially, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about. That's what our discussion is. And today, as Simone had said, we have five more that we're going to touch on that are related specifically to building a valuable business. And one of the first ones is something that we've talked about many times on our show here, and that is CLTV, or customer lifetime value.
Mhm.
And the question that knowing CLTV answers is, where does retention or expansion create the most margin?
Mhm.
And the decision that it's helping us make is, whether and how much to invest into onboarding. Because, well, let me just run through here. So whether and how much to invest in onboarding, outcomes, and different paths for, ascension paths, or paths for further, upsells, let's say, another way to put that.
That's
And
interesting to consider because
yeah,
for some companies that lifetime value can be low. And so you're not going to put a whole lot of effort and investment into onboarding that client. But if you expect and you want for the client to stick around for a long time, and you expect the value of your clients to be high, then you're going to invest more in providing more services for them and into onboarding them so that from the very beginning, their experience with you, from the time they say yes, their experience with you is a delight and it's just wonderful. And you're keeping them coming back and saying, okay, well, I've used this particular product or I've used this particular service and you've helped me out, you've got me to a certain point. And you know what? I want to stick with you. You've been helping me out a lot. Let's keep this thing going.
yeah. And I think actually, like the first thing we talk about here is onboarding, but that's assuming that you've already converted them into a paying customer, right?
Right.
In reality, if we really want to talk about orchestrating the entire customer experience, that comes from the first meeting that you have with them in reality, right? Because
Mhm.
that is their first taste of what it's like to work with you. So if you're late to the meeting, for example, right? Bad message, right?
Yeah.
Um,
It's a
if
bad
it
first
if
impression, huh?
yeah, if it was difficult to book the meeting to begin with, bad message, right? Making sure that it's, quick, painless, seamless as possible from the very start is crucial.
Now that's interesting. So let's talk about that for a second. So what if you have your systems dialed in very well for when you first meet them as a lead, as a prospect, they're you're not late to the meeting. They're getting their reminders, everything looks professional and everything. But then they but then they purchase from you and then it kind of falls apart. So it's like you've given them this
Yeah,
great experience to begin with, but
yeah.
then but then it fell apart when they transitioned into becoming a customer.
hmm Yeah, this is where, okay, yeah, great. Okay,
That's
we
terrible,
just
making
created.
a terrible second impression.
Yeah, yeah, well, but your first impression might be able to make up for that
Mm,
failure. So this is key, right? All along the way, if you're doing a great job of orchestrating this, then you're building a bank of goodwill, hopefully, I would say, keeping
yeah.
that in mind, you know, because yeah, okay, it's a good idea to have that bank of goodwill and everything. Really though, like depending on how big it is and how long you've known them, I think you could use that whole bank up in one failed
In one
experience.
interaction, right? Yeah,
But
yeah.
but it could have saved the relationship. So it's crucial. But
It's great.
yeah,
If it's great at the beginning, they're willing to give you the benefit of the doubt if you kind of
yes.
fall off a little bit towards
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
That's good
so
to know.
like CLTV is just like so important, right? Because it impacts so many different things, right? Like it having extending the lifetime value of a customer means that you have to go out and find fewer customers, right?
Yeah.
And in the process, you are by definition giving them such a great experience that they stick around longer and are probably therefore going to want to tell other people about you, which
Right.
means, again, lower customer acquisition costs, less effort on your part having to go out and find new customers. It's
Mhm.
like extremely important to
High
metric.
loyalty. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to build high
But this is
loyalty
like
in your customers.
I don't think that this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall seeing this on my in my QuickBooks anywhere. Like this
They
is
don't
something
teach
that
you
you
this
have to,
stuff.
yeah, you might have to do
But
some
we're
digging on
teaching
this
it
one.
to you here, folks.
Yeah, yeah,
We're on the cutting edge.
yeah. Yeah. Well, at least Mark Jeffrey is, so we can,
Oh, Mark Jeffrey is, yeah. And
yeah,
so Mark Jeffrey is teaching us,
yeah.
and we're
That's right.
passing it
Yeah,
on to
we're,
you.
we're relaying the information here.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, it's a crucial metric to pay attention to. Churn is our next one, which is kind of like what happens when, like you said, the experience kind of falters there, and turns out that the goodwill bank that you built up wasn't quite enough.
Mhm.
Or they
Yes.
have other reasons, right? So the question here is, where are we losing customers?
Where are you losing them?
Probably also part of that is why we're losing
Mm,
customers.
yeah.
Um, and the decision that it can help you make, knowing this information, is um, um,
Just kind of figuring out like um where so if you know where the customers are falling off
yeah,
and where they're leaving and canceling, then that helps you to fix those areas where they're making that decision to leave. So this is why when you're canceling, I heard there's a big there's a big problem right now that a lot of people are having with ChatGPT. And
oh yes,
so they are, and so a lot of people are canceling. And when you want to cancel, they ask you, well, why are you canceling? Give us your opinion. And I've seen it with other software platforms. You click the cancel button, and they really want you to stay, but they also want to get that data. Why are you leaving? So they'll ask you. They may give you a list of of items to check, like, was it too expensive, you don't need it anymore, it doesn't have enough, it doesn't have the right tools or the right features in it that you're looking for,
too
or
too
you can
difficult.
write
Couldn't
in,
figure it out. Yeah,
or yeah, it was just too difficult and you couldn't figure out how to use it, right? Or they'll ask you to just free flow and just write in there what you think. And then typically they will give you either a discount or maybe give you a few months free, to get you to come back.
it's
And
a
but
churn mitigation strategy.
churn mitigation, exactly. Like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
don't leave, come back, come back. We love you. We want you to stay. And so they'll do all these things. But they'll that data is very crucial for them. Like, if a lot of people are saying it's too expensive, or if a lot of people are saying, well, it doesn't have the features that I'm looking for, or it's too hard to figure
Or,
out,
or,
well
or,
then,
or you didn't give me enough information to begin with. You know,
yeah, or this isn't the
I,
system I thought it
I, you,
was,
you made, you made me have to figure it out on my own. Instead of like
yeah,
having a proper, onboarding
yeah.
process like we're talking about.
So then that helps you to figure out, like, okay, let's fix these areas so that we'll have less churn, that the items that people are checking off in that survey become a non-issue anymore. And ultimately we want the churn rate to go down.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
crucial to know what your churn rate is so that you can make these changes as needed to reduce that churn rate and increase your CLTV. See how this works together?
Yeah.
So, um,
All comes together.
yeah, yeah. Um, the
Yeah.
next one up is your customer satisfaction. Again, this all plays in together, right?
Mhm.
Are you delivering perceived value consistently? Do your customers realize the value that you provide to them? Are you proving value? I've heard it worded different ways, but I saw a conversation on Reddit the other day. It was MSPs. It was the MSP subreddit, and
Mhm.
the one guy says, "We're getting ready to lose 40% of our customer base."
Wow.
And everybody, the first thing there were several people, the first thing they said was, "You're not proving value." It's
Mhm.
the first diagnosis. You must
Because
not be
that's
proving
what
your
we
value.
want when we spend money with a company, right? We want the value that was promised over and
Well,
above the value of the money that we're giving, right? If I'm paying,
yeah.
if I give you $100 and you give me back $100, then there's no point in us exchanging the money. But if I give you $100 and you give me back 1,000, oh well, then we can do this all day. you
Yeah.
know?
Well, and then something like MSP, like or an IT, when you're talking, when it's like non-technical people that are making the decisions, when they're seeing, we're spending how much to do this,
Mm,
if you aren't really kind of drawing, the like connecting the dots for them along the
mhm.
way and showing them that if they didn't have you here doing this thing, then this is what it would look like. You know what I mean? Like
All their
it's
systems
it's
would fall
hard
apart.
it's
Yeah.
hard for people that aren't in that abstract coding world or like aren't really seeing what's under the hood to justify the expense, like in the state of Indiana, you're not required to have emissions testing, right?
On your
So,
cars?
yeah, so
Oh wow.
people are driving vehicles on the road that would be illegal in many other states, right? But it's they don't care what's going on under the hood as long as it gets them there, right? But it's kind of a strange analogy maybe, but if you're looking at like the state of California, for example, that has very stringent emissions testing requirements and that kind of stuff, there's an emissions testing unit on almost every street corner, it seems like. But like th- there's a reason, like they're being forced to do it, right? In that case.
Mhm.
So slightly different. People might not quite understand the value of it, and you might not see it right away, but the long-term health benefits to the population at large, pretty substantial, if you want to buy into the numbers in that case, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of similar in that regard, like,
It's an intangible benefit, but it is a
yeah,
benefit.
yeah,
Yeah.
MSPs, the value that they're providing is just like there's so many things that are going on under the hood that
Mm.
most of the business owners don't really
And they
grasp.
don't really understand. Yeah.
You
You
know?
know what? And for an MSP owner, or for any business owner in that type of situation, it behooves them to kind of make it to to express what they do and the value of what they do in a way that becomes tangible for your client. You know, um, if my service people aren't here servicing your servers every month or 2 or 3 months and cleaning out all of the junk files and different things that build up, well then for you that means everything gets slower, everything gets clogged, and it takes your employees 3 times as long to do something which means that you are now paying them 3 times as much because they're spending, so many more hours to do the same task that today takes, something that takes a day would end up taking 3 days. And so explaining it to them in that type of situation, in that type of way, then I would think would help with the customer satisfaction. Like, oh yeah, you know what? Keep coming, keep doing what you're doing.
It's hard. I
Because
think by nature humans have a difficult time projecting into the future. That's part of the problem here,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
So
if
true.
you don't have the guy who looks into the crystal ball, right? The CFO, if you don't
Mhm.
have him on your side in that case, it might be tricky. But I always imagine CFOs as being like, oh, look at this, this is we're looking into the future here, right? Helping guide the spending of the organization,
Yeah,
and I would think that you definitely need to work on communicating your value to that guy, if nobody else, right? Or that
yeah,
gal,
yeah.
that person.
And I think
Um,
sometimes, like in a situation like that, where you're talking about having technical people explain things like that, it can be difficult for
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Their whole lives revolve around, okay, the servers, the code, the hardware, that kind of thing. Whereas they're
The
not
email systems,
necessarily
you
the
know.
email systems, they're not necessarily thinking about business as a whole. And so,
Yeah.
you could,
If part of what you do is like protecting against the possibility of a hack or a major technological,
yeah,
dark hole that your whole company could go into, um, it's hard to convince people, that'll never happen to us. We're just a small company, we're not worried about that kind of thing. Well,
yeah.
okay.
It's like actually,
Yeah, roll the dice. Anyways, so keeping going on. So obviously, like hopefully you can understand a decision the main most important decision here with with customer satisfaction. You are knowing how you are satisfying your customers, how satisfied they are, helps you to take that feedback that you're getting from them and then you know, invest it back into improvements, whether it's the improvements in the overall experience with the customer or the product itself, whatever that may be. But the value of knowing that information is like it's beyond it's one of those intangibles, right? It
yeah,
doesn't you can't put a dollar amount on it necessarily, but it's extremely valuable
that's
for your
right.
business.
And I think another thing too is keeping that communication open and high. They say it's better to over communicate than to go silent, than to under communicate. When when your clients don't know what's happening, they sign up for you to do a project for them, and you say, okay, great, sign here on the dotted line, we get started, and you don't
Oh,
speak to them until the project is complete, and
I
that's not
have.
going to happen for another 3 or 4 months. Well,
Hmm.
then dark forces and dark thoughts start to take over
Yeah.
in your client's mind because they haven't heard
Oh,
from you. So having those check-ins on a regular basis, keeping that communication open is so key.
yeah. I had an interesting customer satisfaction report from one customer in the situation where I went dark for too long after starting a project, and let's just say can't repeat it here. So
Some words were said.
some words were definitely said, but message communicated and received. You
Right, right. And
Yeah.
so like in that way, like using the open communication, you can have customer satisfaction by not doing anything extra, really. You're just talking to them. You're just informing them and letting them know what's happening. And
Yeah,
that
and all of
it
a sudden,
shouldn't take too
customer,
much extra effort.
yeah, yeah, your customer satisfaction interview kind of sounds like a normal conversation at that point, right?
Mm,
Because because it's just it's an expected part of you've kind of like trained your customer for lack of a better word, like you've
yeah,
kind of trained them on and set the expectation for
yeah,
the cadence of communication, right? And so it just becomes, this is just a normal conversation. Yeah, so how things are going? Like, oh, tell me how is that? How are you liking that kind of, all of a
yeah,
sudden you have a lot of input, and if you're recording it into your AI, you can use that later, right? So
absolutely. Yeah.
anyway,
Especially like if they happen to say something great, that's an instant testimonial.
oh, can I use that? Yeah, just throw that in there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Um, okay. I want to keep on task here. I know this time
yeah.
Simone has to go relatively early. So let's look at the next one on the list, which is NPV and IRR. I
Mm,
know these from my business education or as part of
yeah.
the finance section on that.
I've heard of NMRR and I've heard of ARR, but I don't think I've ever heard of IR.
Okay, yes. So NPV, do you know NPV? Do you know
Yeah,
that one?
what's NPV?
So net present value. And
Present value.
um,
Okay.
and then IRR is internal rate of return.
Mm,
Um, and you are using them together to help you prioritize your resources is the idea.
okay. Okay.
So NPV is some would say a superior metric for determining which project adds the most absolute value to a company. IRR, your internal rate of return, is an effective screening tool that ensures um, that helps your projects meet a minimum efficiency threshold. So let's put that into some marketing terms here. Make it make sense here.
Okay.
Um, so if let's say, for example, um, well, okay, real quick, so overall, the question that knowing these two metrics helps you answer is which of your initiatives deserve your resources. Let's put it that way.
Mm, okay.
And a decision that it helps you to make, and that knowing this information, the decision that it can help you make is um, prioritizing um, the projects or the initiatives that have positive net present value and your highest internal rate of return, knowing whatever constraints you have on your capacity. So, in other words, where to spend your time and effort, knowing how little you have of each. Right? So,
Okay. So is that a little bit like, say, my favorite pretzel shop discontinued my favorite pretzel? And could it be that they did some research? They were looking at their sales across all of their products, which which products are doing the best and which they can eliminate. And what's that 80/20, the 20% of products that are bringing them 80% of the revenue. And
yeah.
because the pretzel that I like, the flavor that I like, I'm one of the few people that actually really like it and keep buying it. So they eliminate it. It's not
Yeah.
bringing them, it's not contributing to the 80% of their revenue. And so they eliminate it.
Yeah, I'm going to take this off on a weird tangent right now, but since you went down a weird path here, I'm gonna do you one do you go
Pretzels
one
aren't
up on
weird,
you.
pretzels are wonderful.
I was watching every morning. I flipped through my YouTube shorts, just watching them, and I stumbled on one that was talking about AC/DC, the band AC/DC,
Hmm.
which I'm a music fan. AC/DC, used to love AC/DC when I was in middle school. But anyway, um, they have a song. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Um, and this song, apparently, they've only played live 30 times in their entire history,
Oh, wow.
which was crazy because it's like one of their most
Very
well-known
popular
songs. It's
song.
like the one that set them on the track to stardom, basically, right?
Oh, wow.
And it was written by Bon Scott, who is like their original lead singer. And he actually passed away in 1980. And since they got a new singer, he said, "I'm not doing that one," right?
Um,
And he says it was because in tribute to the original singer, right? Like, oh, I can't do that because it's his song, right? But really, the band they're saying that it's just too difficult, right?
oh,
Because
wow.
it involves bagpipes, and nobody knows how to play bagpipes apparently. So apparently, the original singer I told you I'm gonna take it on a weird tangent here, but the original producer for their first album found out that he was his in a family bagpipe band, and so he figured he would just be able to play bagpipes on the song. But in reality, Bon Scott was actually the drummer in that band, so he had to teach himself. But anyway, apparently the new singer didn't want to teach himself bagpipes, and so needless to say, they haven't played it since. But
Hmm.
this is a long way of saying, they figured out that this was not worth their time and effort, right? To
Hmm.
keep that song going.
Yeah. This is
NPV
an
and
initiative
IRR.
that is going to cost them and not
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
provide any actual value for
yeah.
their
Well, they
business.
had so many other things that they could do, right? Like, great
Hmm.
song, don't get us wrong, but we're gonna chalk that one up to,
Yeah.
we're gonna
It's like
leave
you
that
guys can listen
to
to it
Bond,
on
man.
recording,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
when you
yeah,
come to the live show,
yeah,
we ain't playing
yeah.
it.
Right. So, uh, so how do we use NPV, IRR in our marketing? Um, Again, it's decision making, right? Where to focus your efforts. If you can track how much each of your efforts is bringing in, and if it remains positive, and you have a good internal rate of return on that effort, whatever it may be, then continue on or double down,
Mm.
by all means. If
So, in
the
other
opposite is
words,
true,
double
you
down on
know,
what works.
yeah, basically, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you might not even necessarily need to know. It kind of depends on how complex the operation is and how complex your marketing initiatives are, right? If you're a simple one man, one gal shop, chances are very good that you have a very good idea of what's working and what's not without having to dive into NPVIR. But if you're a much larger firm, much larger organization, and you really want to get granular, and you have a CFO, and they really want to get granular so that they can, accurately project, then you're going to need to know this information. Um, so just to give you a what if scenario, um, so if you have varying project sizes, for example, so let's say you have a $10 million project with a 12% IRR, that creates significantly more value, generally speaking, than a $100,000 project with a 40% IRR. Does that make sense? Um, yeah. Anyway, it's a complicated um, set of numbers to know, but highly recommend looking more into that if you don't know about those and how they can impact you. So, to get into wrapping up a little bit here, our key points: creating value in your business creates predictable revenue, or excuse me, in value in a business, creating value equals predictable revenue plus consistent experience plus your systems that go beyond the founder. That's how you create value. Predictable revenue plus consistent experience and systems, right? Your if your if your customer lifetime value, CLTV, is up and your churn is down, those are very strong signals that you're doing something right, you know. So if you know nothing else that we've told you, learn those two things, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to tell you quite a bit.
So we want lifetime value to be up and churn to be down.
Yeah.
That means more people sticking around for longer and spending more money with you, and fewer people leaving and saying, well, no, this isn't, I'm not getting the value for my money for this service. Got it?
Yeah.
Fairly
All
simple.
right. Yep. So let's hmm, if we want to create a scorecard with the different metrics, okay? So here's how you could structure it. Visibility. This could be like a weekly thing, right? You're looking at your brand awareness, right? Your word of mouth, social engagement, your cost per click, CPC results, the bounce results on the website, right? And any kind of information that you're getting from offering test drives to your prospects. That's a weekly thing. Viability, if you want to keep track of the viability of the business, this is again weekly. You're looking at your TCR, right? If we remember what the TCR is, it's transaction conversion rate, and that
Transaction.
is are your prospects becoming your customers, right?
Hmm.
What's your close rate? In other ways, could be another word term for it. Um, and your take rate, right? When you are offering something to somebody, how often are they accepting it, right? And that would be like your key package or your upsells, especially. Um, and then keeping track of your ROA, right? Which is return on ad dollars spent. And remember
The
that,
ROAS.
yes, ROAS, exactly. ROA or ROAS. It's usually ROAS, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, it allows you, and that knowing that allows you to make the decision where and whether to reallocate your budget to the top performing ads, right? And pause or get rid of the ones that are underperforming.
Working, right?
Um, and then also part of your viability for like a monthly check would be looking at your payback.
Right.
And if we look at, so that's your time to recover your customer acquisition cost. How much did it cost you to acquire that customer? How long does it take you to earn your money back and then some, right? Looking at that over like monthly. And then, of course, part of that also would be your profit. Are you profitable month to month? Um, and then value, so monthly or quarterly, looking at your CLTV, your churn rate, customer satisfaction, your net present value, internal rate of return. Right. So that's your scorecard structure. Get that started. Um, and then your some of the decisions to think about here would be like defining your good or at risk for each metric. Right. What is considered good? What is considered at risk? And obviously, what actions can we take to fix that? Right, if need be. Um, Yeah, so yeah, that's the next thing. Like, what actions are we going to take to fix it? If X shifts by Y for Z period, we do A, right? So that's an example. You can start with a spreadsheet and then get into like heavy connections later on if you need to. Um, and you know, you could separate it out over one owner per metric. Um, cross-functional review weekly, however you want to set up the meetings, but have one person on your team be in charge of one of the metrics, etc. Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, so pick a pillar that's weakest and choose two metrics to improve this quarter. That's our challenge to you.
That is our challenge. So we to recap, we what all of these help us to do with our in our V3 system. Um, for visibility, it clarifies the signal. Are we reaching the right leads? And are we giving them clear next steps? For viability, are we providing a smooth path to profit for the business? Is there fast payback for the money that we use to acquire a customer? Where are we dropping balls? Are there fewer drop balls in our system? And for our value, um, are we getting growth? Are we compounding the growth? Not just going linear, but compounding and exponential growth, right? We are looking for higher customer lifetime value, lower churn, and we want to make smarter bets and have higher customer satisfaction. So these 15 metrics they're part of a system and they're tied together and they help us to make decisions as the owner and as a if you're a bigger organization as that C-suite team. Yeah,
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah,
Fantastic. So tell them about the growth the growth scorecard, not the scorecard, but the assessment.
yes. So first off, make sure you subscribe to the podcast in order to get notified when we have more awesome conversations like this. And if you feel like you are bumping up against a ceiling in your business, you feel like you should be getting somewhere and you're just not, you're kind of, you can't figure out why. Take the growth ceiling assessment. There's a link in the show notes there, the description, excuse me, and that will help you to kind of pinpoint which which of the V3 visibility, viability, or value, which of those may be the thing that you need to focus on. And we can get into the details over a call then as well. So yeah, that is totally free. You can do that for free to get a little bit of get a head start on your getting a little bit of clarity in your business and figuring out which how to move forward. That's the idea. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's it for me, I think. But I know you gotta get
All
going.
right.
So,
Well, thank you so much for watching today. And if you learned something, or if you're going to do something different because of what you heard today, let us know. Put your biggest takeaways and your aha moments in the comments, and let us know what you're going to do different, what you're going to measure next in your business to help you to grow. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.